governments around the world continue to make no sense. The United States government puts regulations on top of logisticians in the midst of one of the biggest shipping crises we've ever had. And we have this issue with all governments. So there's only a couple of answers to the reasons why, right? They could either be just completely incompetent, they could be lying to us to either cover incompetence or to cover corruption, or they're just truly corrupt. It kind of falls into one of those four categories. So let's talk about this. All right, African swine flu was just tested positive in Thailand. Now here's the really interesting thing about this. Right now Thailand says, okay, they pulled a sample in a slaughterhouse. Why were they testing in the slaughterhouse? I don't really know. I don't know their processing procedures. Maybe they test standard, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're testing standard. Now, here's the interesting parts about this, and here's the part that doesn't make sense. African swine flu tested, what's today, the 9th of January, is that right? 10th of January, something like that. And I'm sorry, I don't know what day of the week it is. Definitely don't know the date. Anyways, so they tested today. Yesterday or 2 days ago, the same government agency in Thailand announced that they were going to cease exports of pork. And the reason they're ceasing exports is they're claiming it's due to inflation and rising prices. That makes sense, right? So because we have rising prices and inflation, we're no longer going to sell our goods. That's the answer that we want to come up with. It doesn't make any sense, guys. It's more likely that the government probably knew about the African swine flu, and that's why they ceased it, and then they're claiming the test was after the fact, because they don't want to hurt their pork production, something along those lines. That would make some sense. Here's what's going to happen right now is that the pork within a 5-kilometer radius of that center, so about, what is that, 3.2 miles, 3.2, 3.1, I think it's 3.1. Anyways, miles around that center will now be quarantined basically, and they won't be allowed to export their pork. They have not stated yet whether they're going to force the culling of all the animals. But what was really interesting is I found a completely separate article that said that the government of Thailand has culled C-U-L-L, killed the 159,000, is that right? 159,000 pigs last year between March and September. I thought that was really interesting because the article didn't really say why they were doing it. They just said the government was providing reimbursement. Kind of skipped over it, but it was saying that the government was providing reimbursement. Most farmers haven't got it, yada, 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 typical government stuff. Takes forever if you get it, you may not ever get it, but if you owe them money, they're going to charge you interest, I'm sure. Now, that's really interesting. So they culled a bunch of animals last year. I don't really have a good indicator as to why. So if somebody finds an article explaining why, I'd love to see that. Please post it in the comments below. But the really interesting thing about it is that happens to coincide with them lying about this swine flu thing and saying that they're stopping their exports because they can't. Because of rising prices. That doesn't make any sense at all. That's when you sell more because you need to bring some money in, bring some capital in. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And then that just happening to happen 2 days, a day, 24 or 48 hours, I don't remember which one, but the day or two before they tested positive for swine flu, African swine flu in that area. Now, swine flu, for those of you that don't know, you have to go through the gain of function to go from swine flu to have it affect people. It's a fairly easy thing to accomplish because and the diseases will do it naturally. They'll also do it in laboratories, as we've seen, but they will certainly do it naturally. And so the question is does that swine flu, how deadly is it? How contagious is it? Is it going to make the jump to humans? How deadly is it to pigs is really the first question we should be asking, because somebody that's a virologist out there may be able to correct me, but I don't believe that the majority of those flus transition to gain of function and move to a different host. So I think that's probably not certainly unlikely, but the least likeliest of the possible scenarios out there. So what I think probably the worst case scenario that this results for us is that if that swine flu were to leave Thailand, and if it were to be a particularly deadly strain of it, you would have commercial feedery, feed operations, CAFOs is what they're called, they're confined area feeding operations. The commercial feeding operations would certainly have a problem, and especially until they can get the pigs vaccinated for it. It's a whole separate subject. So we know that we don't vaccinate. Y'all know that we don't, and we let our pigs' natural immunity fight it off. We also don't bring pigs on mid-cycle, so we don't really deal with it. Right. I buy all my pigs that I need to raise for that year. They stay on the farm. They raise out. They go to slaughter. I don't have pigs for 4 months, and then we do it again the next year. So that's the way that we raise pigs. We no longer breed. So I'm not bringing pigs onto our farm mid-cycle. So small farmers like me, probably not going to make any difference. But the larger feeding operations that are bringing pigs in and continually cycling animals in and sending them out to be processed, and then you're contaminating the processor, it's very easy for flu like that to get carried out. Now, bird flu being transmitted from chickens to actual wild birds, that's a little bit more of a contagious issue, whereas pigs is a little bit harder to you can control it in that facility. So they may very well be able to get control of it in that 5-kilometer center, certainly within the realm of possibility, if they're telling the truth about last year. That's the only question is, are they telling the truth about why they culled all those pigs last year? That's kind of the question up in the air right now. So stay tuned. I will keep you updated as we see issues with this develop, but may not be a bad idea to get on the pig farmer schedule and get your half a hog ordered, or a whole hog. But certainly, guys, it's time to stay stocked up on your food, and you are seeing all the writing on the wall of all this stuff coming crashing to a halt. On-site Travis and I did a video last night, and he's going to post it here in the next day or two, and talking about kind of the macroeconomics and what we think is coming. And I talk a lot more doom and gloom on this channel than what I actually think is probably the likely scenario. So don't think, but doesn't mean I don't plan for that unlikely scenario that I think is certainly in the realm of possibilities. Right? I don't think that zombies are coming, but I do think that we have some possibilities of some fairly catastrophic events coming. And so food control is certainly one that seems to be more and more prevalent, and we're watching it come along slowly, and then all at once. So time to buy your meat, time to stock your freezers, time to do your canning, get everything put away, make sure you guys have food on hand so you can take care of your families. Watch out for each other. I really appreciate y'all watching. Make sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and we'll catch y'all next time.